I have watched thousands of videos on business. I've also read a lot of books on business. I have watched thousands of videos on influence and persuasion. I've also read a lot of books on influence and persuasion. I have watched hundreds of videos on philosophy, and I've also read a lot of books on philosophy. And not only I've read and watched, I've studied from both to see which one is the superior form of learning. And in only 7 minutes from now, I'm gonna save you so much wasted time and energy. So at first, I believe we need to break down what we want to actually get out of reading and watching educational books and videos. We want to learn. But what does learning even mean? Learning can be defined as changing behavior both mentally and physically after being exposed to the same conditions. For example, you're cooking and you put 2 spoons of salt in, but your meals become salty. So the next time that you're cooking, you put 1 spoon in or 1.5 spoon in, so it doesn't become salty. Same conditions, cooking, new behavior. Not adding that much salt. And as a side note, by this definition, you can have a quantified metric for how smart a person actually is. Just see how fast do they change their behavior after being exposed to the same condition. So we are going to compare reading and watching by 3 main objectives. We want to learn as fast as we can, as much as we can, and we want to remember the things that we have learned for longer periods of times. So let's get into it. Personally, I hated reading books. I would buy a book and maybe read like 4 pages and then toss it away and would never touch it again. But after watching lots of videos on getting rich and personal development, I saw that every single one of those guys were talking about reading books, like every single one of them. So I decided to not be a bitch and actually read one. It was the Meditations by Niccolo Machiavelli. Absolutely recommend it. After this, I read another and then another and like 50-ish more books. And in the meantime, I was still watching the videos so I could really experience the differences between these 2 channels of learning. The first 2 differences that I experienced was 2 things that goes hand in hand: the action threshold and the attention span. The attention span is basically how long you can have uninterrupted focus on one thing without getting bored. For example, the attention span required for like watching TikToks is just like 5 seconds. You watch for 5 seconds, then scroll. 5 seconds, scroll. 5 seconds, scroll. The action threshold is the amount of energy required to complete a task. And as you've probably guessed it, watching videos requires less of both. It's not as boring as watching a video, and only watching doesn't require that much energy. So it's better and easier for learning, right? I thought the same back then. But if you remember, our main objective was learning. We want to learn, and while a low attention span and action threshold makes it easier, it doesn't necessarily translate into better learning. In fact, it's the opposite, because you don't have to sit there and focus on each word and try to connect everything together. You become complacent. Because it's easy, we don't take it seriously. So it doesn't matter how much valuable the information that's being shared is. What does matter is how much of that information are you getting. I learned this the hard way. I would watch a video and get mesmerized by the value it provided. But a week later, I wouldn't remember even half of it. But I had the illusion that I knew everything, right? So I would never come back to it. That's the dangerous part. The illusion of being a smartass. And I'm not saying that you can't focus when watching videos. I still watch tons of videos. But it's definitely harder to engrave everything that we see into our memory. And for that reason, if I find a video valuable, I would write everything down to have it with me whenever I want to come back to it. Which takes us to our next point, which is exposure. You see, the best environment for learning is constant exposure. If you've been driving for like 10 years every day, you know how to drive because you've been doing it for so long. Like, that's the nature of everything. Like, you probably don't remember the biology you've learned in high school. You may remember some parts of it, the mitochondria, but not all, because you've never been exposed to it. But if you are a high school biology teacher, you know it because it's your job. You're doing it every day. You are exposed to it. That's the key part. My channel theme is like, I read this book 5 times, I read that book 5 times, and I frequently get asked, why you're reading these books like 5 times? Isn't 1, 2, 3, or even 4 times enough? And my answer is always, no, I don't fully understand everything until the 5th time. And then everybody assumes that I'm an idiot. I don't know, maybe I am. But what's the point of reading and watching if it doesn't change your behavior? And that change of behavior happens with constant exposure, which here is reading for multiple times. There is no shortcut to it. Back to our original example. You are cooking, you put 2 spoons of salt in and it becomes salty. If you don't cook for like 2 or even like a week, you don't fucking remember how much salt you put in last time. You just don't remember it. You weren't exposed to it enough, and you get caught up in this cycle of salty food for the rest of your life. The opposite of that is called practice in normal language. So it's easier with books. You can highlight things, like write things down on it, come back to it, and you don't have this luxury with videos. So you've got to manually write it yourself. And I know most people won't do it. Like shit, you guys listen to audiobooks. Like for entertainment purpose, that's fine, whatever. But for the love of God, if you want to learn something, don't listen to audiobooks. The illusion of knowing is so dangerous. But with all that said, there is something that videos have that books struggle with, which is relatability. You know, nowadays there is a massive problem with books. The new authors and writers are more incentivized to write for fame, money, status, rather than passing on their knowledge to the next generation like it was before. So it would be a safer bet to go for the old books. But the world is constantly changing, and the teachings like from a book written in 2000 years ago may not apply to the things that are happening today. And that's where I believe videos play a massive role in learning. You have the access to any information and knowledge from a wide range of perspective and people to choose from at the tip of your fingertip. And because this sphere of content creation has become so competitive, everyone is trying to one-up their game and make better, more valuable content, especially in the educational field. So you have that, and because there are so many of these valuable content with so many varieties, you can sort of watch them as edutainment. Again, it won't be optimized for learning, but it works with exposure. This is critical here, so listen carefully. If you don't like reading at all, like not even the slightest chance, you can watch so many of these videos over a long period of time that the watching itself becomes the exposure. But you have to make sure that the content that you're consuming is consistent, meaning you only watch one type of content creator or mentality. I've also done this myself, coupled with reading, and it just works beautifully. So, the conclusion. Always remember that you want to learn, and if it didn't change your behavior, you didn't learn. Read books for maximized learning. Highlight them and come back to them. Don't listen to audiobooks, for the love of God. When watching videos, write important information down and come back to them. And if you don't like books, watch so many videos about that topic that you have no other option but to learn. Thank you guys so much for watching this video to the end. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe, and also make sure to comment your ideas. Without exchanging ideas, we won't grow as a society. My name is Said Rakshani. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one. For now.